Hello, I'm Bear, or Brian, depending on where you know me from, and welcome to Friendly Neighborhood Gamer. Tonight we're going to be discussing minis games. There's a lot of cool avenues with minis games. Part of the hobby is putting together your minis, painting them, getting them ready for the table. But the two things that we're going to be discussing specifically are going to be skirmish games versus ranks and flanks. Skirmish games, you're moving around as individuals. You're not held together by formations. You're able to act freely as agents. Versus ranks and flanks, you have a much larger army that you're controlling. Each unit is basically a large number of people, so they have to pivot on a point, usually on an X or Y axis to move, and they just kind of forces you to stay within those confines. The skirmish games we'll be discussing tonight, the first one is Rangers of Shadowdeep. It's a cooperative skirmish game. You're working together, 1 to 4 players, to do missions, and your characters will level up, therefore allowing you to do harder missions, finding magic items. It's very fun for the group. The second one we're going to be talking about tonight, Frostgrave. It is completely the opposite of Rangers of Shadowdeep. You are not working together. It's individuals forming war bands to go into the city of Felstad, find magic treasure, bring it out. Monsters are waking up and coming alive, but also the other players want to grab all the treasure too. So it's kind of a fight between between 2 or 3 or 4 players, depending on how many you have going on in the skirmish. The ranks and flanks game we're going to be talking about is Kings of War. It is, I wouldn't call it a knockoff. It is a rules light version of Warhammer. If you try to play Warhammer, anybody who's played Warhammer knows you can't play it less than 6 hours, usually for one game. I can't say that, but I'll cut this out later. But it's a rules light version of the game, and you can get one game in under 2 hours. So I really highly recommend it, and we'll be going through it. Also, I brought some minis to kind of show you what they could look like, and we'll go into a little bit of detail about D20 versus D6, because both these systems use varying things. So the first game we're going to talk about tonight is Rangers of Shadowdeep. Both the skirmish games we have tonight are Joseph McCullough. I am a big fan of his. Anything he does, I buy it. I've got quite a few things on my wish list to get, but I've got expansions for this. I've got expansions for Frostgrave, which is the game we're going to talk about next. And it's just a solid D20 system. I hate the word Rangers because D&D has made it into something that has its own connotation. But in this game, you're ranging into Shadowdeep. The land has been, some darkness has come out. The king is sending you in there. And so initially, you're just making your character. And you can be anything from a wizard to a fighter to a paladin to whatever you want to make. The rules are pretty light enough that you can make whatever you really want to make. It has pretty in-depth rules with how you can do it, what type of skills you can have, and they're pretty well balanced. Later expansions have, so you can take an oath that you won't use a ranged weapon, so you'll get a bonus to melee, that kind of stuff. But just the base game by itself is pretty solid. Everything you need for this game is in here. Character sheets are free online. It just really, I just ran this over the weekend for a group, and I ended up running like a healer because, of course, everybody wanted to be a wizard that stabbed people with a sword. And that's fine. You can definitely work that. The system with minions works really well, being able to buy minions based off your leader points. So that if you wanted to play solo, you'd have more minions. If you wanted to play with friends, you'd have less minions, so that the other players' characters could shine. This one and the next one are both model agnostic. I think everything tonight I'm showing is model agnostic because this day and age with 3D printing, why would you want to play anything that forces you to use their models? This is a D20 system. It's a bit swingy, but that's kind of where the beauty of the system is. You get a nat 20 on something, it's probably going to die. I've seen rats take out a paladin if they gang up on them enough, and I've seen some really swingy situations, but it kind of makes the game like you never get lulled into a false sense of security with this game because anything can kill anything if they get a good enough roll. All right, we'll move on to the next one. So we're going to be talking next about Frostgrave. It's another Joseph McCullough game. Frostgrave is a skirmish game where each player is making a wizard using one of 8 schools and then going into a city with mooks, sidekicks, henchmen, whatever you want to call it, to basically find treasure and get them out. The scenarios should be run randomly, so therefore you don't know what you're going to run into when you go into the city. And then every time you pick up a piece of treasure, it has the chance of summoning a random monster to come in from the outside, which really adds like a third bad guy or third element to the game. Basically something that's not controlled by either player, and it really has it makes this game different and fun because I'm fighting you, you're fighting me. We're working to see who can get to the treasure first, and then a damn polar bear just shows up, and it kind of ruins your day sometimes. Again, there's 8 different schools of magic: chronomancer, elementalist, enchanter, illusionist. You are a wizard in this game. There are expansions that take you out of being a wizard and into like a warband leader or something on that nature. But for the most part, Frostgrave is about being a wizard that hires people to go into a city. The difference between this versus Rangers of Shadowdeep, there's magic everywhere. You can enchant your weapons, you can find magic items. Whereas Rangers of Shadowdeep, it's cooperative, so it kind of has a little bit lower power creep, and you don't get the magical items. Whereas this right here, it's like, yep, here's nukes. Kill each other with them. It's fun. Again, it uses the D20 system with a few adjustments. I think with Rangers of Shadowdeep, you can't shoot into melee because they don't want you hurting your friends. Whereas this, it's like, shoot into melee, shoot some arrows in there, hope somebody dies. It's just fun, crazy ways for things to happen. It has everything you need in here. The artwork is great. Again, I said that a lot with every one of these videos, but I mean, if you're not doing good artwork, then why even make the book? And then you come back here and it's got the bestiary where random animals can roll in, constructs, animals, demons, undead, all manner of things can come in, and there is just so many source materials for expansions to keep growing the city of Felstad, which is the original name for Frostgrave, out. It's a robust system. I cannot recommend this game enough. If your friend group or family group, whoever you're playing with, has thick enough skin for PvP. All right, well, let's move on to our last one. So the final game we're going to be talking about tonight is Kings of War. It is a large-scale battle game. This is the only rule book you'll need. They do come out with updates, Clash of Kings they call it. But for the most part, you can take this book right here and play the entire game. You don't need 3 books. You don't need a book of magic. You don't need an army list. Literally, the rules for this game are right there. The rest of this book are different races that you can play with the rules that go along with them. But generally speaking, that is all the rules right there. It's not, I mean, this game is made so that you can get a game on the table, be done with it in 2 hours or less. I've played this game and got done in an hour. Both players know what they're doing. I played this competitively. I've gone as far as over to England to play this game. Highly recommend it. D6 system really helps out with statistics if you're trying to get your kids to learn math, or if you want your family to learn math, adults. But it's kind of cool. I'm looking at it from the standpoint of like fantasy battles, ranks and flank type game, versus the other 2 games, which are skirmishes, where individuals can move about freely. This one's more of a ranks and flanks, where you've got a unit of troops that pivots and moves on an X or Y axis straight forward and backwards. Just a different concept. The other 2 games were D20s, whereas this one's D6. You're rolling a lot more dice with this because depending on how large your unit is, if it's this right here is a regiment. If it was a horde, which would be 2 of these essentially in length, it would almost double the number of dice that you'd be rolling. So you'd have a lot of dice in your hand and rolling it all at one time. So can't recommend this enough. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about the modeling aspect of this hobby in a second, but I highly recommend this versus like a skirmish game if you're looking for a larger scale battle. So the final part of this video, besides the outro, is going to be the modeling aspect of the game. All three games that I've spoken about tonight are essentially model agnostic games, which meaning you can use anything that kind of resembles what you're talking about. The modeling aspect of this game kind of is a big portion of the hobby. It's not my favorite part, but I mean, I have put stuff together. I painted this umber on this zombie right here. Really proud of the detail here with the, I don't know if they can see it with the gore coming off of it. It's just fun to paint a zombie. Versus like I played dwarves competitively. So I have quite a few dwarf models. But again, I've used dwarves, like my models, for Frostgrave. I've used them for Rangers and Shadowdeep because again, it's a model agnostic game. As long as the model looks similar to what it's supposed to look like, you can use it, and the creators don't mind. Whereas some companies, won't say any names, are very strict. If you're doing anything competitively, you have to use their stuff. That's not the case with these. Taking the time to really build these models out. My friend Tony did this one. It looks very nice. I like what he's done with the groundwork here on the bottom, adding the grass. This is a unicorn for like a Forces of Nature army. This was actually made for a tournament that I ran for my birthday last year that they were giving out as prizes. So it's not only just about playing the game, but also kind of building a community, painting the models, getting them together. Well, tonight we've talked about minis, specifically skirmish games and ranks and flanks. Frostgrave is a game that would definitely do well with having someone running the game, keeping track of the scenarios that have been used, and also the wild creatures that are coming in. Versus Rangers of Shadowdeep works well with, like for this past weekend when I ran a game, neither of the players that I ran it for wanted to run a healer. So instead, I ran a healer for them and kind of just followed behind them. I kept track of all the bad guys for them, kind of kept the game going so they could continue having fun. With Kings of War, that's a much larger scale and it works well in a tournament setting. There are narrative types of games that you can run, and that's something that I can provide as well. So I'm looking forward to any questions or comments you guys have at me. Feel free to send me a message if you're interested in setting up an event for your friends or family. I'm available for you. Hope you guys are having a good night. And again, keep the dice rolling. Trying to outro thing. Yeah, bye.